What's up guys, welcome to Munchkins Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Munchkins logging in to bring you another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and welcome back to another video guide. In today's video is going to be on the latest Lufenia Plus fight, Magic's Deepest Chasm pitch. This is the new Heretic Lufenia Plus fight, so before we do start, once again, like and subscribe if you haven't already. It does help the channel, guys, and I really do appreciate it. Now, without further ado, let's start this video. Alright guys, so let's start this off as always and how you're gonna deal with the Lufenia Orb, which starts at the start of the battle and will disappear once you hit less than 50% of the boss's HP. The great thing about this is it actually doesn't come back after that. You get 8 Lufenia Orb counters when you as the player deal more than 850,000 HP damage in one turn. Now, there are very few characters that can actually do this. Lonen Rain being the most easiest one to pick, who can actually achieve this very easily in this fight. Garland is another one that can do this as well, although he might need a little bit of help when it comes to some Brave Battery or something along those lines. Cloud of Darkness and Strago can do this as well. However, there is one caveat when it comes to Cloud of Darkness, at least from my own personal experience. That is, both of the mannequin should be alive in order for her to reach that cap. She basically will deal she needs to deal like 300k damage in each one of them in order to reach that Lufenia Orb mechanic. So it's not an easy feat to do. You will probably need some burst effects and stuff like that, and buffs and debuffs, so she can always cap her Brave Battery, her Brave damage. And Cid Rains is another one that can do it, again with a small caveat, since the boss basically will reduce Brave and HP damage when she is knocked back. For one, probably using Pandemonium as your summon increases the overall HP damage when you're doing HP damage on knockbacks. Plus, he might need, he will need Setzer as well to bypass that Brave damage reduction. So there are a few characters, however, there are small caveats here and there. Lonen Rain probably is the most straightforward one, and probably Strago as well, since it's kind of the same. But for me personally, Lonen Rain just makes this fight much more manageable. Alright guys, now let's move on to how the fight works. Now, first of all, the boss will constantly raise one of the mannequins if one of them is dead. Basically, one dies, the boss herself will try and revive it on her next turn. Now, if both dies, she will immediately raise one of the ads or the mannequins. So yeah, basically there will always be at least 2 enemies in the field. The mannequins will use their LD ability, so there are 2 mannequins, which are Warrior of Light and Penelo. Basically, if you let them have a turn, it's almost guaranteed to be almost game over. But yeah, it's kind of insane that they can use their LD abilities now. Now, the next thing is the boss can use a charm, which can immobilize you, which is not great. And the boss gets a instantaneous turn as well if she doesn't get a turn for 10 consecutive turns. Now, when the boss hits less than 50% of her HP, she will also recover Brave to the entire party and will recover the mannequin's HP almost to full. Once again, I mentioned this earlier, she does reduce Brave and HP damage during knockback. So there are a few ways to go around this, but essentially it's trying to stop you from using Cid Rains. But let me tell you, there are still quite a few people who actually use them in the JP version. Anyway, moving on to how you're going to deal with this fight. First of all, delay and turn manipulation is actually really nice to bring here, at least in order for you to keep the boss in a loop trying to raise one of the ads. So basically the idea here is basically delay as you know, all the enemies as much as possible, or at least kill, you know, one of the ads. So if the boss does get a turn, it will be to raise that ad, especially those instantaneous turns. Setzer, once again, still a valuable character to bring, since he can ignore all those brave damage reduction, and obviously will help you cap in your brave damage, and therefore giving you a high amount of HP damage, and therefore meeting the mechanic. Now, one little thing that I would add here is applying paralysis, confuse debuffs, or even HP disable on the ads will actually avoid you getting hit by their LD abilities. However, they can, I do believe the boss can remove the debuff, so just be careful there. I'm not entirely sure. I think it's when she hits less than 50%, or when she gets the instantaneous turns. I don't remember on top of my head. And honestly, on my video that you guys are seeing, or the one that I recorded, she kind of did this, but I wasn't really paying attention because I wasn't using this like, you know, I suppose strategy. But it is there if you want to use it. Like Agrias, once again, is a very good one to bring. Can paralyze, can confuse, so you don't have to worry about getting hit by those LD attacks. And the last thing is obviously AoE attacks. That's the only way you're gonna reach that 850,000 HP damage in one turn, so there's no going around that. Alright, now let's move on to characters that you might want to bring. And once again, it's just a whole list of characters. And my biggest thing here is to bring a character that can deal with the mechanic. And like I said, you know, Lon Rain's probably the easiest one. AoE HP attacks are definitely great. Initially, you know what? I actually thought of using Squall. I remember back when this first came out in JP, I actually tried to use him, but he just doesn't quite make it, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I'm sure with the rework, when it comes around, he will be able to meet it, but unfortunately it'll be too late by then. So my suggestion is just, bring any of the characters I suggested earlier and then build your team around those characters. Alright guys, now in terms of call characters, I highly suggest bringing any characters, any call characters that can turn manipulate or apply HP damage up debuffs, right? Or yeah, turn manipulation, delay, probably the best ones to bring for my own experience. However, like Kurosame, Gabranth, these characters are definitely going to help you reach that HP threshold, especially if you're just barely making it. Like, those extra 10% might end up helping you. Alright guys, now let's talk about party compositions. So the first one obviously is the video that you guys are seeing right now with Garland, Lana Rain, and Setzer, with a cold team of Quistis, Sid Reigns, and Rosa. For the support, I went with Cloud of Darkness for further delays, and for the summon, I went with Ramos. That paralysis is definitely going to help in the clutch if you use it wisely. But yeah, this team basically ran through this fight. Lana and Rain are probably the best ones to bring, and seeing as it is their quote-unquote LDBT, Lafayette fight, of course they would shine the brightest. And I brought Garland along because of his ability to delay, but there are obviously other choices. I could have probably gone with, I don't know, Sid Reigns, something along those lines, so I can actually, turn manipulate there. And with Setzer's help, I would be able to meet that HP damage threshold as well. Now the next team I have for you guys is Lana Rain, and once again, Ace and Agrias. I mentioned Agrias earlier with her ability to confuse. Gabranth, Cypher, and Sephiroth for the support. You'd be surprised how useful Cypher is here with his LD. But yeah, very, very helpful. Cloud of Darkness and Ramu for the summon. And yeah, basically the idea here is use Cloud of Darkness with the delays as well. You're basically gonna run through this as well. But yeah, you can definitely play around with your team if you do have Lon and Rain in your team. Now the last team I have for you guys here is Cloud of Darkness, Strago, and Bard. So basically you have Cloud of Darkness and Strago doing as much as they can, and Bart with his BT plus aura will be able to basically give you just enough of that lovely brave recovery during those in between those HP attacks. So definitely something you might want to consider. Kurasami, Gabranth, and Jack for the Cull team. Again, Kurasami and Gabranth gives you all those extra HP damage up. Lon and Rain for the support, and Ramuh for the summon. Now Lon and Rain are there for the backup just in case you're not quite there, especially if there's only 2 of the enemies in the field at that time. Alright guys, so we're finally at the end of this video, and of course I'll give you guys my final thoughts regarding this fight. Overall, the fight seems like it's kind of like a force pull fight. Lon and Rain definitely shines the brightest, and for me personally, I ended up, as you can see, BT plussing my Lon and Rain, because in the JP version when Lon and Rain came out, I didn't BT plus them, even though I've been asking myself, should I BT plus them, and each and every one of the next Lufenia fights I ended up just using them. So I told myself when Global comes around with Lon and Rain's BT, I am definitely BT plussing them, and I will definitely use them much more, rather than just relying on a friend support for a Lon and Rain friend support. So that's just me, which makes this fight so much easier in my point of view. However, if you do not have Lon and Rain's LD, this is a hard fight. Meeting that requirement is very tough, especially if you don't have the characters that I mentioned. I might have missed some characters. If I did, please let me know down in the comments below. If you end up using someone else that can actually meet this requirement, surprise me. But I think these are some key characters, although I do say may be quite hard for you because it seems like a force pull type of fight. It is not quite there, because Sid Reigns is still very helpful. Now granted, you will need Setzer, and this is why Setzer has been a pillar for a lot of the fights in the Lufenia Plus, in the early Lufenia Plus fights. He is someone that can basically ignore some of these mechanics and definitely help you, and that is why a lot of people, a lot of content creators were going pull for Setzer. Definitely pull for Setzer. And I am one of those, even though I didn't make a video out of it. I still highly suggested that, pulling for Setzer. So anyway, that is it. I would probably put this, at least in my experience, somewhere lower down in the difficulty level because I have Lon and Rain, but there is definitely space for this fight to go crazily hard. So yeah, anyway guys, that's it for this video. Please do remember to click like and subscribe if you haven't already. It does help the channel, and I would really appreciate it if you can share this video as well with other DFFO players who are struggling to beat this Lufenia Plus fight. And hopefully this video does help them, and at the end of the day, if you don't have Lon and Rain, try to look for a friend support that has Lon and Rain, and that should be able to push you past the 50% mark, and hopefully forget about the Lufenia Orb after that. So yeah, that is it. List down in the comments below your team, your strategy. If you think I missed someone, let me know down there. Follow me on Twitter and on Facebook at Munchkins Gaming. This is Munchkins logging off. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next level.